Hi, and welcome to the Breakthrough Emotional Eating Podcast. My name is Kristin Jones, and thank you so much for joining me this week. When I started coaching 8 years ago, I was very restrictive with my clients. I told them what to eat. I gave them a food list. I told them how much to eat. I told them when to eat. And consequently, people struggled. People either would lose weight and then immediately gain it back when they stopped eating the way that they were eating, or they wouldn't lose any weight at all because they kept not following the plan because it was too restrictive, it was too hard, and people just didn't enjoy it. And I really struggled with what I was going to do with clients in the way of helping them to lose weight. I had not developed any awareness of my own emotional eating, nor that emotional eating was even an issue. I didn't even know that I was an emotional eater at that time. And so I started, kind of like paying attention to how people ate who I felt had pretty good eating habits and that maintained their weight. And one of those people was my dad. My dad maintained the same weight within a 5-pound range for his entire adult life. And my dad ate, and my dad never dieted. My dad ate exactly what he wanted to eat. He ate exactly what my mom made for dinner. She made him the same lunch every day. He'd have a breakfast that he wanted. But my dad never ate in between meals. He just didn't do that. He came from a family. He was from the South, and my grandparents were from Oklahoma. They didn't have a lot of money. So you didn't snack, you didn't eat in between meals because usually you were working most of the time when, in between breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you were working if you weren't at school. And if you were at school, you were playing sports. And so there wasn't time to eat. You just didn't think about food. And so my dad consequently did not have any kind of weight issue his entire life. And so I really started looking at what he did. And not only did he eat what he enjoyed, but he did not snack in between. And so that kind of it gave me an idea of like, okay, what if for myself as well as for my clients, what if we just went back to basics? What if it wasn't so complicated? What if trying to lose weight, and this isn't even touching the whole emotional eating piece, but it ends up helping with the emotional eating piece. But what if we just made it simple? What if we just stopped making it so complicated and counting carbs and doing all of these crazy things? And what if we just decided that we were just going to eat 3 times a day and we weren't going to eat in between? And you could eat what you wanted, but you just didn't eat a ton of it. And you had portion control. You ate what you wanted. Because you ate what you wanted, you could stop when you were satisfied, but there was no snacks in between. You ate your 3 meals, and that's what you did. And when you got to your next meal, you were pretty stinking hungry, but that was okay. And so that was a huge pillar of my weight loss and eventually my emotional eating program that I developed and that I still use today with clients. It is always an option with clients, but it's probably one of the best practices that I believe anyone can do is adopting the idea and the belief that you don't need to eat food in between meals, that you have your meals, and there really isn't any reason to eat in between a meal unless you're like starving hungry and you've done something or you have something, there's something physically wrong. There's really no reason to eat in between a meal unless you're really hungry. And even then, I would want you to rethink. And at that time, I didn't even the whole idea of emotional eating didn't even come into play. It does now. But the idea is to make it really simple. Like, let's just get back to basics. Let's not stop making this so complicated. Let's just eat what we want, but we only eat 3 times a day, and we don't snack in between. So today's episode is all about why. What is the whole reason behind why I would encourage you not to snack in between meals and to not make it like it's a hard, fast rule, but to really look at, is it just a habit that you have developed that you think you need, when in reality, it really isn't. And it's really something that could be holding you back from being where you want to be and feeling the way you want to feel in your own body. So today's episode is going to be about snacking and why or why not, and why I say do without the snacking and see your battles with your weight disappear and have a much easier time maintaining your weight or losing weight and then keeping it off. So the 4 things we're going to talk about today are the 4 whys of no snacking. And the first one is it eliminates untracked calories. Secondly, it allows you to take back control of your thoughts, your beliefs, and your habits. And it encourages you to tell your brain what you are going to do throughout the day and then following through with that. So that gives you back your power when it comes to your thoughts, because we know our thoughts lead to our feelings and our feelings drive our actions. And so if we don't have control of our thoughts and we don't tell our brain what we want it to do, it's going to do whatever it wants to do, and it's going to do what it's always done. So if you've always snacked at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it doesn't matter what's going on at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it's going to think you need a snack. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. The third thing, it creates a process called fat adaptation within your body, and that allows your body to become a fat burner, and you are able to tap into fat cells and burn them and lose weight. And the fourth thing that it does is it forces you to be very conscious and very deliberate and very nutritionally minded when it comes to your meals, because you're going to go from one meal to the next. So you need to be very, very conscious and deliberate about what you choose to eat at a meal, because it's going to get you through the next 3 to 4 hours and get you through to your next meal. And so you really have to be pretty specific and really eat the things not only that you love, but the things that are going to nourish your body. So in fact, it ends up being a healthier way to eat. So we're going to address those 4 things. So the first thing I want to talk about is that whole idea of when we snack, we don't count those foods as foods that we've eaten. It is so common for people to say, well, I was standing up in the kitchen, I was standing at the refrigerator eating something. It doesn't really count. And I mean, that's a joke, but at the same time, people don't think about that. They don't think of all the unconscious, untracked, just walked by my boss's desk and there was a bowl full of M&Ms and stuck my hand in and grabbed them, or went into the office and there are gummy worms and I had a few of those, and I had a quick few Mike and Ike's, or I had a Jolly Rancher or 5, and any of those things, they're all untracked calories. They're all things that we take in that we're not paying attention to, and it's just allowing us to kind of go, just not take responsibility for our eating habits. And then oftentimes people get frustrated because they're like, I'm hardly eating anything. I mean, I don't understand why I'm not losing weight. Well, it's because they're not really tracking and they're not paying attention to what they're really, truly eating. They're kind of deluding themselves. And we don't want to delude ourselves. If we really want to feel good in our bodies and we want to be at the weight that we want to be at, which is going to be a healthy weight that's going to allow us to be able to live the longest, best, most health-filled life, we need to be honest with ourselves, and we need to start being accountable for the decisions that we're making. And so eliminating snacking just takes that all away. You don't have to worry about tracking calories. You don't have to worry about a sugar rush or a sugar crash, because that's just not what you do. So that's the first thing. Second thing is this decision to not snack anymore allows each individual to be in control of their brain and to tell their brain what they're going to do throughout the day. Because when our brain goes unchecked, when our brain doesn't have parameters or boundaries or guidelines, our brain will do whatever the heck it wants. And when it doesn't know what to do, it's going to recall what would you have done in this situation previously? What was the last thing that you did? What was the last time you were in this situation? What did you do then? So if it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon and you are super stressed and you're driving home, and you feel totally stressed and you're getting anxiety, your brain's going to say, okay, what did she do? Because all your brain wants to do is make you happy. So it's going to say, what did she do the last time? Oh, she stopped at the drive-thru. That's what we need her to do. Okay, let's tell her to go to the drive-thru. And that's what it's going to do. So you get to make the decision ahead of time. We're not going to snack, and this is what I'm going to do instead when that situation arises. Instead of driving the drive-thru, I'm going to call somebody. I'm going to acknowledge that this is how I'm feeling, that I'm feeling stressed, that I know food's not the answer. I've already made the decision that I'm not going to snack. So what am I going to do instead? I'm going to feel my feelings. I'm going to recognize that I need to talk to somebody, and I'm going to pick up the phone and call a friend. I'm not denying that I feel that way. I'm acknowledging it. I'm owning it. And then I'm choosing to make a different choice. And when you make those different choices, your brain learns a new pattern. It gets out of the destructive pattern that you have of always turning to food, and it starts to adopt this new chain of events that will move you in a different direction. So we have to start very consciously doing that and making different and better decisions for ourselves so our brain can take on these new, more healthful and more supportive systems and processes in place, so we're not continuing to do the habits that we've always done that aren't working for us and that aren't getting us where we want to be. So it puts you back in control of your brain, allows you to make the decisions, but you have to make that decision in the beginning of the day. You have to say, like, we're not snacking in between. We're going to eat good, solid, 3 solid meals, and we are going to make sure we drink lots of water, and we are going to make sure that we get through the day, and we're going to feel really good. And when those circumstances come up where we feel like we want to eat something, we're going to consciously make a decision. What are we going to do? And we plan that ahead. We have some ideas about how we support ourselves, and that's where we go from there. So that is really, those are hugely, being in control of your own thoughts is sometimes a hard concept for people to understand, but it's so absolutely vital when it comes to any kind of behavior change, that you have to recognize the thoughts that you have and the negative thoughts that you have that cause you to do things that in the long run are not going to be in your best interest. And so you have to make a plan. You have to give yourself some guidelines and some boundaries and some paths to follow in order to be successful. And so planning things out, how am I going to handle if this happens? It's called if-then planning. If this happens, then I'll do blank. And so if-then planning is really, really powerful because it empowers you to take control of your thoughts and to actually lay out a plan. As my former business coach always said, what gets planned is what gets done. So when you make a plan, it's more likely for something to happen, for the end result to be what you want, than if you hadn't planned and just hoped that something was going to happen. All right, the third reason why giving up snacking is something that can be very, very powerful when it comes to weight loss, and especially when it comes to emotional eating as well. And that is, it creates a process in your body called fat adaptation. And what that means is that your body becomes a fat burner. So what does that mean when your body becomes a fat burner? Are our bodies always in a state of being able to burn fat? Well, no, it's not. When we constantly have food in our system and we need energy, our bodies are always going to go to the foods and to the reserves that are immediately available. And those reserves are usually the last things that you've eaten, the most recent things that you've eaten. So if you need to have energy, and energy, when I say energy, I don't mean like you're constantly exercising. I'm just talking about like doing a math problem or being on the computer, because your brain doing mental processes, your brain requires energy to do that. It requires calories to do that. So it's really, really important to be able to have those reserves in place. And so your body needs those reserves to do a myriad of things. But we want to have we want to have our bodies be able to tap into fat cells. So what do we have to do to get there? Well, the first thing is, when our bodies need energy, the first thing it turns to is the foods that we've just eaten, the most readily available energy sources. It then taps into, once those are exhausted, It then taps into your muscle glycogen that's stored in your muscles. There's a pretty small amount there, but it goes there next. Uses that. And then the third area that it goes to is your fat cells. Now, if we constantly are feeding our bodies, it never gets to the point that it ever gets to the fat cells because it always has food available to use. And we want our bodies to start using those stored fat cells. And so you want to allow anywhere between 3 to 4 hours between your meals. It also allows your blood sugar to be stable and to not have the fluctuations of blood sugar going up when you eat and then coming down, crashing down afterwards. And so it's really important to make sure that you allow yourself to be able to have have a steady state of blood sugar that isn't always going up and down, because that is also what causes cravings. And so when we are able to stabilize our blood sugar and we're able to make sure that we are eating the things that we need to eat at our meals, and then we go without in between meals, our blood sugar is going to settle down, because our blood sugar always elevates no matter what we eat. Blood sugar is going to elevate after you eat, and then it's going to settle down, and it will stay at a low level until you eat again. And that will help you be focused, be able to get things done, to have more muscular endurance, to have more mental endurance. But it also allows your body to tap into those fat cells to use that energy instead of using that readily available energy if you had eaten instead. So being fat adaptive really helps the process of burning fat and, in turn, losing the weight that you want. But it also has a dual effect of helping with emotional eating, because it's not creating those cravings that are oftentimes attributed to the roller coaster of your blood sugar going up and down from you eating. Now, that doesn't even take into consideration the emotional component of emotional eating, but it's a great start because there is a physiological component to emotional eating as well, and this kind of takes care of that. We still haven't touched the emotional eating aspect, or the emotions, and that aspect is a whole different topic and a whole different podcast episode. But this is more of the physiological and the physiological things that happen. So that is the third reason why not snacking is really helpful. And then the fourth reason, and the fourth thing that you can do to really help with weight loss. And again, this isn't the answer for everybody, for every possible reason why or every possible way you need to lose weight or you want to lose weight. It's just a great start to look at, okay, am I consuming untracked calories? Am I allowing my brain to do whatever it wants to do? Am I just constantly eating and my body just never has this opportunity to be able to tap into fat cells? And there are so many other components along with it. This is just one, but it's a great start. It's a great place to start to see, what would happen if I just chose to eat 3 meals a day? And I didn't diet. I just ate meals that I wanted to eat, but then I didn't eat in between. So I'm just giving this as a training wheels, kind of as a beginning step to the things I teach. But I think it's a great way to show people that, like, oh, wow, I'm eating a lot of calories that I never even thought of. So the fourth reason why no snacking is really helpful is because you're being asked to go 4 hours, sometimes maybe even 5, between meals. You have to be very, very conscious of the foods that you're choosing to eat. Now, I always want people to eat what they want, but if you have an entire meal that is nothing but carbs and nothing but sugar carbs, and carbs eventually turn to sugar anyway, even if they're not sweet. But if you're eating nothing but carbs, your body's going to use that up really quickly, and you're going to get hungry really fast. So it's always a great idea to mix evenly or equally in a appropriate distribution of fats, protein, and carbs. and making sure you have some protein, or make sure you have some fiber, and make sure that all of those macronutrients are represented, and you have a solid meal that is going to sustain you through to your next meal. And I think that really helps people be much more aware of what they're eating, instead of just like, I'm just going to throw down a hamburger and fries, and that's just going to be it. And there's nothing wrong with hamburger and fries. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying is we need to make sure that if we're going to have something like that, we want to make sure that it's evenly distributed. It's going to be something that's going to sustain us to your next meal. And so what you'll be surprised, what I will say is, if you're a person who really loves salad, that is amazing. Great. Eat a salad, but make sure you have some bread with it. Make sure, and I know people are like, bread with salad, that's terrible. No, it's not. Our body needs carbs. It needs more sustainable kind of stick to your ribs carbs, but it also needs protein. You got to have a protein source with that salad. Don't just eat salad and think, well, this is going to make me really full. It's going to make you really stuffed because it's all nothing but fiber, but that's going to pass really quickly, and you're going to be unsatisfied, and you're going to get hungry. And so it's a really great opportunity to really play with and really explore, what are the things that I really like to eat, and how do I want to go about eating them, and how do I want to help myself when it comes to making sure that my meals are ones that I really enjoy, that they're going to sustain me over the course of the next 4 hours or so, and they're going to give me the opportunity to start tapping into those fat cells and actually get a little hungry towards the end. That's all very, very important. And it's just a really quick and easy way to see if you've been eating too many unaccounted for calories in between, and that may be keeping you where you are, and it's allowing you not to actually lose the weight that you want to lose. So those 4 reasons are the 4 reasons that I would endorse why you eliminate snacking and you eat your 3 meals a day, and you eat what you want, foods that you enjoy, foods that are nutritionally valuable, that again are what you want, and to really savor and enjoy your meals. It's not the end all be all. It just begins to touch that area of emotional eating, but there's so much more to that. But this is a great place to start to see some changes, but to also recognize that you can make the decision that you're not going to snack in between, and you'll realize that it really is emotions that are kicking in that are causing you to want to eat because it's what you've always done. Your brain will tell you that this is what you need to do, and you'll realize that you really don't need it, and that you can then make the other decisions that are other ways of dealing with your stress, other ways of dealing with things in your life that are challenging, that don't involve food. So it's a great stepping stone to getting there and recognizing what it is that you need to do when it comes to your eating and your response to emotions with food. So if this podcast has been helpful, I really hope it has been. I know it's something that has changed so much for me. But if this has been helpful for you, please, would love for you to like this episode. I'd love for you to leave me a review on whatever platform you're on. I would so appreciate it. I would also love for you to comment and let me know what you thought about this episode. If you've ever tried this before, and if you think you could try it, and if you do, give it a shot, and then let me know in the comments what your success was, if you struggled, and then I can always direct you to some resources that I have that might help you, that might support you in being able to adopt this into your eating regime. I hope again this has been helpful for you. Thank you so much for joining me, for listening, for supporting the podcast, and I will see you all next week. Take care.